Hi guys, so I thought it would be really fun for this week for us to basically talk about some books that I find to be really, really interesting and I don't think I've heard about enough, and just kind of, I don't know, throw some opinions at you and you tell me how you feel about them. And yeah, here are some recommendations that I have without getting into too much for some books that I find really, really interesting. Okay, so on to the first book, which is called Where Reasons End. I will not attempt to pronounce this because I will butcher it. But we love this. We love the author. So, this book broke my heart in two. And I'm not kidding, I'm not exaggerating. The topic in itself is very, very, very heavy. I think that's the word that I'm looking for. Because the book basically follows a mother mourning her kid. Her kid who was a teenager who, had a really rough time and she didn't quite realize. And, at the end of the day, he decided that life just wasn't worth it anymore, if you get where I'm going. And so he decided to, yep. And the only way that the mom can cope with everything is that she has this notebook that she writes in and she talks to him through this notebook. It's still her writing back, but it's as if her son is talking to her, and they just have these heartfelt moments. They have this these conversations that turn philosophical, that turn into everything and nothing at the same time, and it just really, really deeply touched me. And I also was staying with my mom at the time, so I read this book in 2 days, and I don't think I've ever asked my mom if she was okay more than in those 2 days. So, yeah. I really loved the book. It was a bit gut-wrenching, I'm not gonna lie to you, the topic. And it hit really close to home. And if you're looking for a sad read, by all means, get this. Please. Also, look how pretty the cover is. Is it just me? I think, besides the colors, I love how simple it is. I really love it. Really recommend. This was book number 1. On to book number 2. Now, this one I have to give a little bit of a backstory on. I went to Paris for the second time, fortunately. I'm very grateful for that. Very grateful for that, sorry. And the first time when I went with my dad, I really wanted to go to this bookshop that was really famous for the aesthetic, for the everything, the vibe, and I think it was called Shakespeare something. You probably know it. If not, I'm gonna insert a picture. And the thing is, I went to that place the first time around and it was absolutely crowded with my dad. So I said, okay, scratch that. I didn't know I was gonna go with my mom for her birthday. But we did, and we tried again, and it was the same situation. It was so horrifyingly crowded that I just gave up. I said, okay, no, we're just gonna walk the streets this day. And we did. And we found this really sweet, I think, Canadian bookshop that's called Abbey Bookshop, And we just went in there, and I still remember the outlay. It was just books, books, books as you go, like straight in front. And then it would open a bigger room covered in books, and these bookshelves that had this really natural texture to them, almost like they were encapsulated in woods, like actual trunks, And then right in the middle, there was this long shelf that kind of created 2 corridors, and it was beautiful. And yeah, some of the books had notes on them from, the really nice ladies that work there and everything, and this one was actually on there, and it had a post-it, and it was like, I never thought I would like this. I never saw it anywhere, but it was great. And the book is called When Hitler Stole Pink Rabbit by Judith Kerr. And although I will say it's maybe not everyone's cup of tea. It was a really beautiful way to look at the experience of a kid through the Nazi regime, through 1933, and everything that happened from there for the kid. And it's not just about the regime, it's about family dynamics, it's about everything. You get to see the movement that needs to happen in order for them to protect themselves. You get to see warmth and pain at the same time, and it was just a really interesting read. I think I read it in the full weekend in which I was in Paris, and it was lovely. And I only read it before bed, and it's a light read. It's not a bad read, trust me. Ah, yes. On to the third one. So, I love Simone de Beauvoir. Like I love it. I only read the second sex, to be fair, which is I think a chunky book. It is. And at first I only read it for the fact that it was basically, a feminist piece of literature, and I really wanted to get into that. And I felt kind of fancy going with my big chunky book. But I really enjoyed it. And when I saw this baby, fresh out the print, it's pretty recent. Basically, a manuscript that was not published while Simone de Beauvoir was alive. It was just great. And I was completely, I was stuck to the bookshelf, and I just saw my mom. She was like, do you want it? And I was like, yeah, but I don't want to pay the money. And she was like, why? And we had a whole discussion about it. And I paid for it with my own money anyhow. And I do not regret a thing. Don't be like me. If you want something, please go for it. Don't go crazy. I love this book, and it's called The Inseparables. It was introduced by Deborah Levy because the author herself is very much not with us anymore, and translated by Lauren Elkin. Sorry, I did not remember that. But basically, this book follows two girls meeting in school and going through life, growing up together, having all of these opinions change, their personalities change, their beliefs change, hating their teachers, hating aspects of society, everything. And then, you see how one of them is more fascinated about the other one than the other one, and how this creates some tension and changes the dynamics of the relationship. And this fascination grows into something else, and we do touch on themes of, sexuality and stuff. And it was a really all in all beautiful read for me, with a rather tragic ending, unfortunately. So, highly recommend, if not for the content itself, then just for the vibe, because I do think the aesthetics of it were really beautiful. I'm in pain as I hold this. I feel my neck knot. Like I feel my neck knot. I feel a knot in my throat, basically. It's so weird and peculiar and gruesome and visceral, this book, in a way that I did not expect it to be. I know that it's talked about sometimes by some people, but I don't think it's talked about enough. The portrayal of society and the author's view of society and societal norms, the way that it's pictured in this book in such an eerie way that might make you want to throw up at times, is something else. But at the same time, there's as you can tell, oh, I only have one? I thought I had more. Anyhow, no, I do have more. There's certain words, certain phrases that just resonated with me deeply, but it's so traumatizing that it's great, And I say that because this book follows a pretty simple, sweet narrative, you think. It's basically this girl that believes her cousin is an alien and she is a human, but then she decides she's also an alien, and she lives in this world her entire life of believing she's an alien, and society is crazy, and society is just a mechanism made to control people and stuff like that. And it's just so interesting how the relationship between them is so strong at first and then fizzles out into nothing for a long time until they grow up, and then they meet again, and then there's a question that's always begged, which is, will they get to be as close as they were? Will they not? What is the nature of everything? It's so veiled in mysticism and creepy that it's amazing. And at the end of the day, it's still about society. With all of that plot, it's still about society. So yeah. Oh, also, big warning, it does mention SA. On to the next one, which I acknowledge that, it's not for everyone. If you're not into fiction to the full extent, this ain't it. That's all I'm going to say. It's not Harry Potter, it's not Game of Thrones, it's not The Lord of the Rings, but it's up there. And it was one of my first fiction-based books that I really enjoyed. It's a series of books, actually. I don't know how many, but a lot. It's not like Percy Jackson, by the way, either. It's basically, the plot is a seventh son of a seventh son in his journey of becoming a spook. A spook being a person that is really deeply connected to the dark side of this realm that is created in this book. And what they do is they fight off the bad guys, witches, ghasts, ghosts, bogarts, spirits, whatnots. I don't know. I still haven't finished the series, by the way. And the thing is, there's only one spook in the whole land, and they need to be trained. And the requirement is that a spook needs to be a seventh son of a seventh son. And this book follows one of the trainees and how he makes it as opposed to the others at a really, really young age. And you get to see the world, you get to see the house that the spook lives in, you get to see the realm, you get to meet new characters, and it's really magical, sometimes dark, sometimes eerie, and I love the descriptions of the fights, of the darkness and dampness in certain rooms. It's beautiful. And there's also a website for it, actually. I might put it down below. I don't know if it matters to anyone, but there is a website where you can get some of the imagery that you would get in the book. And it's really close to what I envisioned. Also, I found out about this whole book series from my best friend in middle school, so shout out to her. Now, for the next 2 books that I have, I will say that I read them on the Kindle, because, not the Kendall Jenner, the Kindle. She's an old girl. She's 10 years old, I think, at this point. She's been with me for a really long time. But yeah, the first one that I'm going to recommend, and I didn't really buy physically, except for my dad, is No Longer Human by Osamu Dazai. That book touched a chord that I didn't know it needed to be touched. In the sense that it catered to this very dark, gray, non-emotional side of myself, because the protagonist in himself is that way. He's very careless in a way, but it doesn't come from a place of ignorance. It comes from a place of depression, disappointment, of everything, of not feeling like everybody else. My rings have just connected. That's nice. And it just follows this person who's so down and dim, but still going through life, and to see the mental process behind everything and to relate to it, because I do think a lot of people relate to this unemotional side of things, to this whole realm. To have a book written just about that, I think, is such a bold move, and I love that, because it brings awareness to a side of humanity that I didn't really know people needed to look at. Me specifically, I didn't know. Maybe you too. And so yeah, I highly recommend that book. I loved it. It's not a lot to read. I think it's about this much. You're good. But full disclosure, it is an intense read on the mind sometimes. At least so I found it. And then on to my last recommendation. And this one I would say is more for the summer when you're just trying to get a good vibe and enjoy. And you're trying to go for something that's going to make you dissociate while on the beach. I would recommend Bonjour Tristesse. I'm not sure what the author is. I will remember and I will write it, but I really enjoyed the book for the vibes. I really enjoyed the characters, the plot. It basically follows this girl living with her dad. Her mom is not with her anymore, with them anymore, and the whole book is set in the 50s, 60s, I think, something along those lines. It follows a pretty short period of time as well, not a long-term book, definitely. But it's basically about the relationship between the father and the daughter. It's about the relationship that the father has with female friends and more than friends, and how their dynamics go, and how the girl has this romance with the guy, but she realizes she only liked him for the love that he offered her, not because she necessarily felt in any sort of way attached to him. And she related to her dad in that way, and her dad has a really complicated relationship with women and marriage and everything, and he tries to make it work, and it's just a whole thing. And I really loved it because there was an underlying sadness to every single page, as you knew what was kind of what the future was forming into, basically, by the end of the book. But it's such a beautiful vibe, and I think the aesthetics are absolutely gorgeous, and I really enjoy the descriptions. And I don't know what else to mention. I think I should make some honorable mentions, and I'm gonna look right now on my Kindle to maybe get something. Okay. Oh. Okay, so The Bell Jar, great read from this summer for me. And Perfume by Patrick Susskind. If you're into murder, creepy, fragrance, romanticizing, and aesthetics, you're good. That's all I'm gonna say. And I don't know what else. I think I may do maybe another part to this video or something like that, but I wanted it to be short and sweet and to just give you guys some ideas of what you could use your time doing. And I hope you guys enjoy, and I hope you're having a great week whenever you're looking at this video. I hope, you're having good food, good friends, good family, and good books to read, and you feel as much yourself as possible whenever you're watching this. And yeah, I hope you enjoy. I hope I kind of helped create some interest in some new reads, and I love you guys a lot, and thank you for watching, and I cannot wait to see you in the next one.